It's funny the kind of things people remember. Little things that at the time don't seem important, yet somehow seem to stay with you for the rest of your life. For me, that summer's day in 1918 is one of them. It seems as though it were only yesterday. Heaven knows the number of times we've made that journey together, me and old Arthur Sutton. We never used to talk much at the best of times, but I suppose he was the governor, and I must have been, well, all of 14. Still, for some reason, I remember feeling then that something was funny. The old chap never said a word, just sat there. All I could do was mind my own business and enjoy the trip. We got to the station about the same time as every afternoon, just before the London train was ready to leave. Everybody knew him. Usually he'd march straight through and onto the train, but for some reason that day he stopped and chatted with a ticket collector, solemnly shaking hands when they finished. I just didn't know what to make of it. And another thing, he didn't hurry as usual. He just seemed to be content to take his time, looking from side to side, almost as though he'd never been there before. It was all very strange. When he got to his carriage, he took the bag I'd been carrying and swung it up onto the seat. Then suddenly, to my surprise, he turned and began to speak quietly. "Well, my boy," he said, "I'm going to retire, so I probably won't be seeing you again. But you mark my words, stay where you are and work hard. Gardening's a grand life, and who knows, if you stick at it, one day you may even end up a director like me." And before I knew it, he was gone. I never did see him again, but I've always remembered what he said. He said I'd enjoy it, and I have. He said I could become a director, and I did.
At the two British container terminals, Southampton, which handles the Far East and South African trades, and Tilbury, which looks after the Australian and New Zealand voyages, everything is geared to turning ships round in the shortest possible time. It's a highly organised night and day operation, imports passing exports in the huge stacking areas.
Most aspects of building technology, the heating, the acoustics, the air conditioning, can only be functional. And although in the first instance this also applies to lighting, with thought and imagination, it can be many other things as well.
Yes, that steel was a jolly good idea.
Perhaps only in the theatre has the full potential of the electric light been pushed to its known limits. And although the techniques of stage lighting obviously differ from those in an office, many of the objectives should be the same.
Just a little forward, please, so we can find the lights. That's enough. Thank
The
you.
lighting man knows that an audience will expect far more from his expertise than merely being able to see what's happening on stage. He has learnt to use electric light in a way that'll make people respond to the things they see. And the secret is not in what he does, but his attitude to the way he's doing it. Within the confines of a budget, like any designer, he attempts to create a series of views that'll have a particular visual significance and impact, and he uses the whole spectrum of lighting possibilities to achieve these ends. Light can be given many wonderful qualities. It can be almost anything we want it to be, but despite its versatility, light is nothing until it falls upon an object, and the description of objects is what skillful lighting is all about.
There's too big a shadow being caused on the cyc. I think it looks like 65. Can you bring that down to half? That's better.
The shape, the size, the color, the texture of everything we see is described by light. The modeling characteristic of light, this giving of shape and form, is often underestimated, but it plays a crucial role in qualifying our visual vocabulary.
Now, bring it down a point.
But perhaps the most important power the designer can exploit is a sensitivity that people have to the emotional effect of light. It's well known that light has an important influence on the way we feel, and perhaps this aspect of lighting is the one that demands the most thought and imagination.
Let's have a look at state 19 again, shall we? That's fine. Now, is 26? 26 is full, isn't it? Bring it down to 7. That's fine, right. Now lift up 32 to full. Good. That's not bad.
Quite a claim, isn't it? And yet when you look closely at the Armstrong helicoil, you can see just how that claim can be justified. Let's put it at its simplest. To be successful, any engineering device must satisfactorily answer 3 basic questions. First of all, will the thing we're designing actually do the job we're designing it to do? Secondly, when we've designed it, can our production boys actually make the thing? And thirdly, what will it cost? Every single decision that the designer makes, choice of size, shape, weight, materials, and so on, will govern to some extent the answers to those questions. One of the most important decisions that he makes is how the thing will be fastened together, because it follows, doesn't it, that the strength of the fastenings he uses will to some extent control the overall strength of the thing that he's actually designing. So what does he use for fastenings? Well, all too often he finds he has precious little choice in the matter and will tend to fall back on a fastening system that first came into use about 1,000 years ago. This one, the common or garden nut and bolt. The problem, though, with conventional screw thread fastenings is that they're notoriously inaccurate. That means they're highly inefficient. And to machine a bolt or to tap a hole to the kind of tolerances necessary to give optimum strength, well, you're talking about watchmaking skills, and that's the kind of talk that makes the financial director's hair stand on end. No, it simply won't do. Really, the designer has only 2 alternatives. First of all, he can over-specify. He can use more or heavier nuts and bolts, and that means more object at the end of the day, and a heavier one too, and a more expensive one. Or he can consider using one of these. A helicoil screw thread insert is nothing more than a simple device which puts the highest precision back into ordinary screw thread fastenings. And yet, it's taken screw thread technology out of the Dark Ages and into the 21st century. Fine, but how do they actually work? Well, originally helicoil established its reputation as a neat and inexpensive solution to salvage and repair jobs. Jobs like this one.
The cost to the board of another metal problem, corrosion, is £12 million a year. To prevent corrosion, it's first necessary to understand it.
In a revolutionary technique devised by the board's own scientists and based on this scanning electron microscope, it's possible without damaging the sensitive and highly sophisticated equipment to place a metal in a corrosive environment and allow a scientist to watch what happens as corrosion actually takes place.
There's quite a lot of carbon going up on there now.
Can we have a look on the other side of this grain boundary, see if we can see a faceted region?
Along here?
Yeah, so go along it.
This is a picture of the surface of a block of artificially corroding steel alloy, magnifying 100,000 times.
Yeah, stop, go back one, Andy. Let's have a look at it along that grain boundary, where there seems to be something bright featured there. Yeah, what do you reckon that is?
A photograph from the monitor screen enables the scientist to study the steel surface, see how crystallites are growing, and eventually fusing together to form a compact corrosion deposit.
But all research projects are interdependent and interrelated.
Davidson.
I'll ring you back.
I'd like you to listen very carefully to what I have to say. Don't interrupt. It may be news to you, but we have another bit of a problem, and it's going to be our last. I've been making some inquiries, and we are going to take that load of scrap that you call an engine out of my car and replace it with one of these. We can read, can we? A British Leyland Gold Seal engine, right? And if we don't, we are going to have a writ on our hands. Do we understand?
Calm now, Mr. McIntosh, don't be like that. I've already lost money on the job, you know, not to mention 5 years of my life. And I'm supposed to be...
Well, in that case, Mr. Davidson...
Oh, calm now, Mr. McIntosh.
So it all comes back to poor old Bob Giles and inspectors like him. Not really. They can only try and catch things that have gone wrong and make sure they get put right. But that's not going to affect the quality of the car much, because by then the standard's been set.
I suppose there's something wrong with all this lot as well, is there? Looks like a right hospital. Look, we'll start at the boot here.
And so the pleasure of owning a new car has finally disappeared. Oh, it'll be put right, of course it will. The warranty will cover that. But Leyland will have to pay the bill, and the customer will never have quite the same amount of confidence in the company's vehicles as he once had.
You wouldn't believe the fun I had with this.
He bought more than just a new car.
You realise that within the week
He bought problems and inconvenience at the same time. And that's not much of a bargain when you think about it.
I just can't begin to tell you what went wrong.
Next time he might buy one of those foreign jobs he's heard so much about.
I've had this car for 1 month now. You just take a look down there. 1 month old. You call that right? Eh? You try closing this door. You'll be lucky if you do it first time, I can tell you.
I think we'll need about 3 days to sort this lot out, sir.
3 days? Oh, God help us.
We want the job doing properly, don't we?
Yes, but it's a bloody pity someone didn't think of that in the first place. Oh.
A quality car is any vehicle that comes up to the exact specification the customer is paying for. It's easy to say, but a lot harder to make. Even with the best plant and machinery in the world, you can still have quality problems. Ask the customer about that. I suppose what it boils down to is people. They're the quality connection. It may take all kinds to make a world, but only one kind can make a good car. The kind that do their best in spite of the problems and get it right first time. The result is either good quality or bad quality, because there's nothing in between. Faults will always happen, of course they will, but the fewer the better. Sometimes they can be pinned down to particular people. Other times it could have been anyone. But faults don't happen on their own. Somewhere along the line, somebody slipped up. At best, a bit of bad quality could irritate a customer and put him off Leyland cars for life. That's bad enough. At worst, maybe once in a million.
Able Tango 1 to HQ. Go ahead. Reporting serious accident, corner of Preston Road and Queen Street.
Corner of Preston Road and Queen Street. Ambulance on way. Message timed at 10:40.
Charlie Victor 1, message received. Over and out.
On June the 16th, on the corner of Preston Road and Queen Street, an accident occurred that took the lives of an infant, a motorist, and a pedestrian. The cause of the accident was never established.
Morning, sir.